All right, example number 2, how do I simplify absolute value expressions? Well, let's remember that absolute value means the distance a number is away from 0. So let's take a look at this first one over here. We have the absolute value of -3. And when we talk about the distance away from 0, it means how many steps or how many units is it away from 0. So I have 1, 2, 3. And now we have to remember that absolute value is always positive, because when you're measuring distance, we're always going to refer that as a positive number. All right, so now let's take a look on the other side. When we have the absolute value of 4, that is also going to be how many units it is away, or how I always like to say how many steps it is away from 0. And 4 is 4 steps or 4 units away from 0. So the absolute value of 4 is going to be 4. And notice how they're both positive numbers. All right, evaluate the expression when x is equal to 4. All right, when you see a negative in front of a number or in front of a variable, another way of expressing a negative is to say the opposite. So I have the opposite of x. Well, x here is equal to 4. So I'm going to place that in here. And so I've got a negative 4. And I can't simplify that any further. Number 2, I have the absolute value of x plus 0.25. So the absolute value of x is 4. And because the absolute value of 4 is 4, so it's always going to be positive. Remember, we're going to have a 4.25. All right, number 3, we have negative x. All right, so I'm going to put the negative here. I'm going to have the opposite of x, which is positive 4, so the opposite is negative, plus the absolute value of 4. Well, we know that the absolute value is always going to be positive, so I'm going to have negative 4 plus 4 is equal to 0. All right, for the next one, how I would read this one, I would probably read this as the opposite of negative x. So let's go ahead and place that 4 in there. So I have negative 4. And so I have the opposite of negative 4. Well, we know that opposite of negative is going to be positive. Another way of looking at that is 2 negatives always make a positive. So I'm going to have a positive 4. All right, number 5. I have negative the absolute value of x. So it's like the opposite of the absolute value of x. Well, let's go place our 4 in there. I have negative absolute value of 4. All right, let's just take a minute here to review the order of operations. Remember, we have please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. And remember, the P is the parentheses, E is exponents. Then we have multiply and divide, add and subtract, and those are from left to right. So we don't have any parentheses here. We don't have any exponents, but when you have the absolute value of something, it's almost like it's on that same level then as the exponents. So we need to apply this right here. So if you're looking at this, you need to look at this, what is the absolute value of 4 before you can do anything with that minus before it, or that negative. So I have negative, what's the absolute value of 4 is 4. And now this can't be simplified any further, so our answer then here is negative 4. All right, for number 6, we have 3 times the absolute value of x minus x. All right, so and whenever you have a number right next to an absolute value symbol, it means that you're going to multiply. So I'm going to write it like this, 3, and then the absolute value of 4, all right, minus x, which is 4. All right, so now we need to start. Let's evaluate here. We're going to use the order of operations. Again, we don't have any parentheses, but we have to evaluate this absolute value here first. So I'm going to have 3 times, what's the absolute value? 4 is 4. Now I have minus 4. All right, so now we've gone to these first 2 steps in the order of operations. Now we have to multiply or divide from left to right before we can add and subtract. So I need to come here and I need to take 3 times 4. That gives me 12. And now I'm going to minus 4. And then that will give me 8.